Okay, let's go over my 43-point deconstruction survey. Now, these are 43 questions we hope to answer about any competitor that we're going to analyze. Now, we're not going to be able to get all the answers to all these questions unless we get a little bit lucky, because a lot of times we can't really know the answers or we can't find the answers. But what we want to do is use all the techniques we've gone over so far in the class to try to find as many answers as we can to these 43 points. So let's go over these 43 points. You'll want to print this out. Obviously, save copies of this, archive copies of this, and always just come back to this when it comes to really deconstructing a competitor or an opportunity that you see online, so you can really break it all down, and then we can kind of consider whether it's worth going after and doing for ourselves. So, number one, monthly estimated site visitors. This is easy to get by just using sites like compete.com, alexa.com, SimilarWeb, any of the general kind of visitor analytics types of services out there. There's a bunch of them out there. They're not always completely accurate, but we can get a pretty solid monthly estimate of how many site visitors a website has. Now, number two can be a little bit trickier. We've gone over this. We've talked about the number of shopping cart visitors. And then, of course, we talked about the average abandonment rate is like 60-something%. So we would take kind of like a 40% number of the shopping cart visitors to kind of roughly figure out how many buyers they'd have. So that's how we'd get number three, the estimated monthly buyers. Now, we can only find those shopping cart visitor numbers typically if they're using a third-party service that uses subdomains and or they're using a subdomain like secure.theirdomainname.com, or obviously a subdomain.infusionsoft.com if someone's using Infusionsoft. So it can be hit or miss, but if we do enough poking around, if you go to a site, you click on the order button and you see it loads of an order form, look at the URL at the top, and then you can kind of see the subdomain or the domain that it's using. And then if we then go and search that, in one of these analytics visitor types of services, we can get those numbers. If not, it's okay, but we want to try to get those numbers. So we want to try to figure out the estimated number of monthly buyers, which would be the number of visitors, essentially taking of shopping cart visitors, and then we take about 35 to 40% of that, assuming that almost 70% are abandoning the cart. So number four, team size. We kind of want to get an idea of how big the company is. Do they have maybe 5 employees? Is it a one-man show? Do they have 1,000 employees? We can do that in a number of ways. I already talked to you about. We can go to LinkedIn. We can type in that company name. We can see if there's a lot of people currently with positions at the company. Almost everyone now that's in any kind of professional job uses LinkedIn to kind of say who they currently work for as well as who they have worked for, and it's just a common thing now for professionals. So a lot of times we can find out how many employees work for a company by looking at the active LinkedIn profiles for saying they have a position at that company. Another thing we can do is when we investigate a company, if we look at their website and they have a jobs tab or area of their site, usually it's under the About Us or something like that, we can find a page that shows available jobs that people can apply for. And if they have a ton of positions that are currently open, or even 4 or 5 positions that are currently opening that they're hiring for, then the company's a pretty big size. And large size company isn't necessarily what we want to kind of clone and go after, because we want to try to clone opportunities that we can do on limited resources and limited time to start making money. And a lot of times these businesses built around huge teams aren't something we can easily clone and emulate. Number 5, do they use a keyword or branded domain? We talked a little bit about brands already in this section. And typically if they use a keyword domain, then they're getting away with not having to use brand names and authority. And they're easy to clone if they are using kind of more of a keyword type of a domain usually. Number 6, domain age. We talked about this. If we look and see how old a domain name is, how long it's been registered, we don't really want to go after a business that's been in business for like more than 5 years. Those are harder to kind of overcome, not only in the rankings, but in other things where they kind of have an established position. Not always. Doesn't mean we can't compete with them. Doesn't mean they're not going to have competitors from year to year, but it's just there's lower hanging fruit for us if we can find somebody that seems to be making good money that hasn't been around as long. Demographics, number 7 here, we want to go into and break down their demographics. We look at like their visitor numbers in compete.com or a tool like that, and we can see what percent of their audience is male, what percent is female. Now, why this matters, we go to do some Facebook advertising or display advertising where we can target by gender, we can target by demographic. You could certainly do that with Facebook ads. And if the demographics of an opportunity that we're kind of cloning or going after is heavily female, we want to run ads only to females, not and just exclude males, because it gives us a higher chance to convert, typically in most cases, and associated with cost. Certainly it gives us higher conversions because it's all female audience, but we can typically save on money as well by really honing in on a specific group of customers. Not always the case, but that's why we want to break down the demographics. Anyway, so number 8, we want to know the top 10 countries by visitor. So we really want to break that out. We can use this to find international opportunities like we've talked about. We can figure out, just where they're selling, where we want to run our ads. If we're going to emulate them, we want to go where they are. So we want to drive traffic from those same countries as well. We talked about doing the reverse IP lookup technique where we can see if there's multiple sites on the same IP address, the same kind of web server, the same host. Doesn't always mean all those sites belong to the same company, but that's where we want to start to see if they do, to see what else they have, to see if they're emulators themselves, where they maybe have a bunch of different businesses that they're kind of cloning and emulating other people that they've seen out there. So that can give us a lot of valuable intelligence. And so we want to do that. Number 10, we want to know what percentage of their traffic is from SEO. We've talked about this briefly in phase 1 when I talked about the methodology, and I'm going to talk about it more when we go to score the opportunities with the opportunity factor formula. We don't really want to go after companies that seem to be making good money but get most of their traffic, 60, 70% or more, from SEO, because SEO is not something we can do fast. It's also not something we necessarily do cheap. And so there's more low-hanging fruit. There's other opportunities out there that don't get their traffic from SEO, where we can just go out and buy the traffic, hopefully turn into a profit right away and make money and be in business. So that's a negative if we find somebody that has a lot of their traffic from SEO. So we don't want that. Number 11, are they running display ads? Yes or no? We can see that in a tool like AdBeat. We can also find number 12 here, their monthly display ad budget. We want to know what their monthly ad budget is. We want to know how much they're spending. Certainly, we don't want to try to compete with a company that has, $1 million a month or more they're spending on ads. So we got to be careful there with how much they're spending, because when someone's spending a lot of money, they have kind of margin for error where they can dollar cost average all their traffic to where they may have a ton of it that's losers and a small amount that's very profitable, but we won't know which ones are actually profitable without testing and us spending a lot of money. So that's usually kind of a negative sign for us if we see someone with a giant ad budget. Doesn't mean it's a deal killer per se that we won't go after the opportunity, but something to consider. 13, we want to know if they're running pay-per-click ads. And of course, along with that here, number 14, what's their PPC ad budget? We can get this from tools like Keyword Spy that we already covered. Same kind of thing goes. Don't necessarily want to compete with somebody that's spending a fortune unless we can kind of just do it on a smaller scale first to get started. Okay, number 15, do they use the opt-in or lead generation front model? In other words, do they send the traffic to what we consider a squeeze page? Do they send the traffic to a form where they're asking you to opt in for a white paper, a report, a software trial, something like that? So in other words, you're going to a landing page that's not necessarily trying to sell something. It's just trying to get your information so they can follow up with you. So we want to know that. Number 16 here, we want to know if they're selling a digital or physical front-end product. So the front end being the first product they try to sell you, the main product. Is it digital? Is it, an input product that's accessed, by download? Is it software that you download or access on a website? Is it a membership site that you just log into? Or is it physical? Are they shipping you something in the mail? Is it a dog harness or a foldable credit card knife thing like we saw with the Survival Life business? Those are physical products. So is it digital or physical? Because that makes a difference. What's the front end product price? What are they selling the initial thing for? Is it $495 plus shipping? Is it $200, $50? What is it? Number 18 here, do they use upsells? Yes or no? Not all companies have upsells. When you go to buy, they don't necessarily offer you other options, other things, but we need to know in dissecting a competitor if they do. So do they have upsells? Yes or no? And if they do, what are they selling? What are they selling and how much does it cost? And then do they use downsells? So if you reject an upsell offer, do they try to sell you something else? Do they offer a discount? Do they offer something totally different? But do they use downsells? Yes or no? And of course, what is the downsell and how much is it sold for? Number 22 here, we want to know what's their money back guarantee. Is it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, a year? You know, in internet marketing, it used to be popular to do like a 1-year money back guarantee. And then that became a problem with merchant companies because they don't want to wait a year before potentially something has been fulfilled and where there's no longer kind of a chargeback period there. So if all else fails, I say use a 30-day money-back guarantee on anything that you do. Sometimes you can increase conversions by doing a 60 or 90-day, but usually 30 days is good enough. We want to know, do the competitors offer payment plans, yes or no? And of course, so that's number 23. Number 24, along with that, what types of payment do they accept? Do they have a merchant account with Stripe? Are they using Stripe system, which is becoming very, very popular for online companies of all kinds? Do they take PayPal? Do they take, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, Diners Club, JCB, or whatever that one's called? What do they take? What are the payments? They accept wires, they accept checks, because this is important. If we're going to go into the same business, they may have figured some things out, like many of their people like to pay with checks or like to pay with wire rather than pay with credit card, or many of their people like to pay with PayPal rather than a normal merchant account. So all those things are important considerations. Number 25, do they have an affiliate program? Yes or no? This matters because a lot of times companies with affiliate programs that are well established, have a lot of affiliates out there, a lot harder to emulate, a lot harder to clone and to get traction like they have. 26, what commission percentage do they pay? So if they have an affiliate program, what do they pay? They pay 50% on their front-end product, and then along with that, the next question, how much is the commission per sale? Are they paying $50, $150, $300? So a couple things you should know real fast about affiliate programs and affiliate program marketing and how it works and how it gets traction. So there's a few things that that kind of get activity from affiliates. One is transactions. So if all else fails and you're testing higher prices and lower prices on a product and you're going to do an affiliate program, if all else is considered equal, go with a lower priced product because you'll get more transactions. There'll be more buyers, typically on lower price stuff, and your affiliates will make commissions more often. It's not so much about the total commissions, but they'll be getting emails all the time. Hey, you just made a sale. Hey, you just made a sale. And activity begets more activity. When affiliates start, getting these notices that they're making sales and making $20 here, $30 here, it's only going to encourage them to do more blog posts, more videos, more advertising, more stuff to drive you more sales. So that's something to consider. And of course, the amount of commission per sale is also a consideration with affiliates. Are they getting $200 a sale, $300 a sale? Obviously, the higher numbers don't go along with the transaction thing like I talked about with getting them more notifications by using lower prices. But it's a fine line and you need to figure out how to balance that. But typically, all else fails, affiliates like making lots of individual sales. They like the transaction volume. So moving on, number 28, how many affiliate pages are in Google for a text string search? So if we do the technique we covered, we look at their affiliate program, we find like certain swipe copy that they encourage us to use, find a popular headline or a popular sentence of description, throw that into Google, put quotes around it, of course, and let's see how many pages are out there that contain that exact group of text that we know are their affiliates. Because that'll let us know, of course, kind of how many active affiliates they have, at least that are using that text swipe. Doesn't mean it's all their affiliates, but it gives us a good idea of how big their affiliate distribution is. Number 29 here, do they have back-end offers? So after we buy something, whether it's a day, a week, a month, do they try to sell us something else? And number 30 kind of goes along with that. A back-end offer can be their own product, but also, as number 30 is asking, do they promote affiliate offers after the initial sale? We kind of briefly went over this already when we talked about funnel deconstruction, but this is where we want to answer it on this deconstruction survey. Are they promoting affiliate offers after the sale? Do they apparently throw us into an autoresponder, which is automated emails that are going to go out and constantly try to promote other products and other things? If they do, we want to print out and make a copy of all these emails that this competitor is sending out and make a note of what affiliate programs they are. We want to go and look at the affiliate programs, see how much they're paying in commission, and consider promoting those same programs. When you find a company that's successful and they're promoting other affiliate products, it's because they convert. And so that's why we would also want to promote the same affiliate products. Number 31 here, do they offer discount for those that don't immediately buy? A lot of companies do like a downsell type thing where during the funnel process, not necessarily on the front end for a discount, but they may offer an upsell of some sort. And if you don't take it, then they'll offer you a discounted rate as a downsell. Also, if you get into their funnel or you get into their process, like you opt in for a report, then they hit you up with a video sales letter or regular sales letter, try to sell you a product. And if you don't buy, if a lot of time goes by after a lot of follow-up messages from their system and you still don't buy, sometimes they'll hit you up with a special sale price, like 50% off. Like that's the way they're really motivating people to buy that don't buy initially at full price. And that's important for us to know if they're doing that. That's why it's on the survey, because if they're doing that, sometimes they may be generating half of their revenue by all the people they offer 50% discount to that don't buy in the first week. So of course, the people that buy in the first week will never see the discount, but everyone else that doesn't buy will. And that can be a big part of their revenue. So we want to make sure and keep an eye out for that. Number 32 here, do they have a continuity offer as a front end? So are they selling something like a membership site, SaaS, something that's rebuild as their front end? And the same thing with the next two questions. Do they offer continuity within the funnel, like as an upsell or downsell? And of course, do they offer it on the back end somewhere? This is important because continuity offers aren't necessarily easy to clone. Because they're getting rebuild every month or so often, they're typically providing value every month or as they're being billed. And so those products typically take more work, more effort, and more cost to offer such a continuity type of a thing. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Certainly doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you should shy away from it. Continuity offer businesses are fantastic. Great way to generate recurring income and predictable cash flow. But it's just something to know in this survey because continuity offers aren't easily clonable. Rather than, let's say, one course on how to do the basics of yoga versus every month you're going to get new yoga lessons and techniques for $19 a month. So if someone built a successful business just on the front end of a yoga course, we could easily emulate that and test that and go into that business ourselves. But if it's something where something's being published every month, it's going to take us more work. So number 35, we want to know, do they sell with an ascension funnel? Yes or no? In other words, does it seem like they sell a low-cost front end and then they move us up to more and more expensive types of products? So that's something that we need to consider. What suppliers do they use? If we can figure out if they are selling physical products, can we go look on that Alibaba site or do the image search and try to figure out who their suppliers are? Also, we want to know what vendors they use. Who are they using? Are they using Infusionsoft, Lead Pages, Mixpanel for analytics? Are they using Kissmetrics for analytics? Typically we can look at their source code on their pages and figure out these things. Are they using Kajabi? Are they using ClickBank? What are they using? What vendors do they use? All of these things are important considerations. Do they use video in their marketing? Here, number 38. Do they have a video sales letter, or do they use video testimonials, or do they use video to teach something in content that goes out in an automated, sequence? Are they using video? That's important to know because video, it's certainly not hard to create, but it's something that may take a little bit more work for us, say, than just text. But it's just important to know. 39, do they have patents or protected IP products? This is important because maybe they have a patent on their SaaS tool or their software product. And so if they do, we're not going to be able to emulate what they do and do something similar. We just run into potentially legal headaches and problems. Same thing if someone has something else that seems very unique or proprietary. If it seems to be protected in some way or protectable, we don't want to compete. There's so many opportunities out there, so many ways to make money online. We can just go after something else. So we want to figure out an estimated, let me bring this up a little bit, an estimated EPC if we can. So earnings per click. And we want to estimate the average initial order value and then ultimately kind of rough out their annual profit and annual revenue. So that's these last four main questions of the survey. Now, how we can a lot of times this is very hard to figure out because without enough data that we can snoop and find, we'll never really know these answers, but we can estimate it. So we can certainly estimate the revenue if we can get the shopping cart data and then extrapolate that and estimate the number of buyers. So we can take the number of unique buyers. So if we see they're getting 100,000 unique shopping cart visitors a month, if they use the subdomain, we can see that like in a compete.com. And we say 70% of those are going to abandon the cart, so we're left with 30,000. So they may have 30,000 people going to their shopping cart and actually buying from them. So that's like roughly 30,000 customers. If their front-end product is $10, then we know the kind of front-end revenue from that initial product is $300,000. Number of estimated buyers multiplied by the amount that initial product is. So we get 300 grand. If they have multiple upsells, typical upsells convert at 10 to 25 to 30% take. So for every 100 people that go through their funnel and buy the initial thing, maybe 25 of those 100 will opt to buy an upsell, whatever they try to sell next. So we take that math and we add it into the initial product math, and we can kind of get the initial order value. So if they lead with something for $10 and then they try to upsell something for $100, and 25% of people take the $100, it's another $25. We can add that to the 10, and we can start. Anyways, you start figuring out just kind of what the average order might be worth, and then you multiply that by the number of estimated buyers, and we can kind of get the general revenue. Profit, that's a very tough one depending on their cost and the team size and how well their ads convert and everything else. But typically we can estimate 20 to 35% of revenue will be profit. That's a pretty healthy margin for internet businesses. So if we just use as a rule of thumb a third, so if we calculate their total annual revenue might be 3 million, then there might be $1 million in profit or somewhere in that range per year in that business, which is a pretty nice business. So ultimately we can extrapolate those numbers and figure out an earnings per click. How much is each click worth? So if we assume, let's say that the average order value is $30, and we assume that their conversion rate is 1%. For every 100 visitors they get to their site, one of them buys. Then we get an EPC of like 30 cents in this example. The $30 divided into the 1%. It comes out to 30 cents per visitor. So that would be the EPC. So obviously we want to find higher EPCs than that, hopefully $1, $2, $3, because then if we can get those same results, let's say it's a $2 EPC, we know anything that hopefully less than we spend $2 per click, like with pay-per-click ads or any other type of advertising, when the math extrapolates out to the per click price, hopefully if we pay less than $2, we'll be turning a profit. So that's basically how we figured that out. But this 43-point survey, we're not going to be able to know all these answers. A lot of times we can't figure some of this stuff out. We just can't. Depending on the tools they use or the tools that we use to try to find stuff, it may be hidden or just we can't find it publicly. That's okay. But what we do want to do is at least answer as many of these as we can to get kind of a general snapshot of what this competitor is all about and what the elements of their business are all about.